So you basically want to know why I ran for office, right? There are a couple of reasons. One is I really believe that in the 21st century, immigrants shouldn't have to wait a generation to be Americans. We are here, this is our home, this is our country, we should contribute just like anyone else. You know, we should act like we belong here and not let other people set the rules and make decisions to impact our lives, right? And that was one of the major reasons I wanted to run. And also because I wanted to see this community become more successful and more competitive. I feel very strongly about why Maryland needs to be more competitive and attractive, and economic growth and educational qualities and all that. So I feel like I have a lot of knowledge about the community that I can contribute. I'm more prepared than most people I know, so why not me?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So what are your legislative priorities?
Yeah, so every session they change a little slightly differently. It varies from one session to the next depending on the community input. Every year I listen to the communities. Sometimes, you know, their needs change and evolve. But overall, my primary focus, as I alluded to earlier, is to make Maryland more competitive and attractive to jobs and talent and investments and opportunities. And to that end, I introduced bills to remove barriers for small businesses. You know, so that we could be more more encouraging of entrepreneurship, right? And if you see how your parents sometimes have to drive very long distance to work, it's because we need better quality jobs near where people live, right? And if you don't grow a business, where the jobs are going to come from, right? So I care a lot about that because it affects the quality of life, you know, and our tax revenue. I also focus on stimulating innovation economy, tech-based industries, whether it's biotech, health tech, you know, clean tech. So I have several bills this session that would enhance the state's investments in early stage R&D activities and establish free technical assistance for the companies to leverage better federal dollars in our community, you know. So several of my bills are related to innovation economy, including clean energy, clean tech, and removing barriers for small businesses. And then I have several other bills that will help the underserved communities and the underrepresented communities. I have one that your parents probably will care a lot about, which is about how to make our school boundary redistricting process more transparent and more inclusive and more equitable. Okay, so I would introduce a bill that would require every school district to appoint a community advisory committee to advise the Board of Education how to be more intentional and inclusive in the school redistricting discussion and process. Okay, and I also have a couple of bills to help the people who are most vulnerable, such as special needs students in public schools, like students who are deaf and hard of hearing. Right now, Maryland does not require professional certification for people who provide educational interpretation for the students who are deaf and hard of hearing. Okay, so they miss a lot of information that was not interpreted for them, and they don't know what they missed, right? And they can't always easily advocate for themselves because they have disabilities. So my bill would require all educational interpreters in our public schools to get professional training and certification. That's not too much to ask, right? So that all kids can learn. And I have another bill that would establish a mobile laundry service program so that we would have a truck with a washer and dryer and volunteers to help homeless people access clean water. Isn't that a cool idea? Right. We have a lot of homeless people that, because of mental illness, because of how they are being treated by people, they don't like to be in shelters. But they still have needs. And the most basic need is clean water, right? So they don't have to use stream water in the cold weather. They don't have to use McDonald's water, whatever, you know. And they could live with some dignity. Okay, so things like that, right? Girls here.
Yes.
Girl power.
I'm trying to.
I am so. Yes. Young ladies, it's your turn.
Right,
Step up and run. Oh, no offense to boys. I
Thank
have a
you,
son.
thank
I
you,
love
thank
boys. Okay.
Let's take a group
But
picture.
especially girls in this country, right? Yeah, we don't.
Is
we
it
don't
still the
want-
minority? Is that
Yes,
mainly
in power
still-
circles, in power circles.
In power circles.
Yes.
Is
Okay,
it
one
still-
last question. Okay.
I saw like price tags on the art like outside. Are they like on sale or something?
Those
you
are
know,
Montgomery County artists.
Those are all Montgomery County artists that we showcase on the hallway.
Yeah.
And yes, I think some of them have price tags if people want to buy them. You know, how about ethnicities and cultural linguistic differences, right? We have to integrate all of these differences into a thinking process in order to have deeper conversation about race relations, about human community relations, you know, in order to come up with the most sensible solution, right? So I try to come to the middle and bring the different voices together and create a more defensible process that we can all trust and embrace. Because this past exercise about Clarksburg redistricting, some people complained that they approached the BOE members and they did not get any responses, okay, as if people's minds were already made, and that was what I heard, okay. They also questioned which element is more important among the 4 elements that were presented to the community. They also felt like that once they stood up against something, they were considered racists, you know. So there were a lot of complaints about the processes, right? So I thought I could be helpful in that
And you're
regard.
right.
You
One
know?
of the complaints, and it really was that Asian Americans were not represented in the dialogue. They reach out to different organizations, different racial groups, but they left out the Asian American community.
So, right. So the whole point is how can we be more intentional
Right.
and equitable in
Okay.
considering different voices, and that does not take away any power from the Board of Education members. They can still vote on the outcome, but they would be more inclusive in considering different opinions, right? And a lot of students actually came to our local bill hearing because one of my colleagues introduced a bill that would prohibit real estate agents from advertising certain school districts in steering homeowners to certain zip codes and all that, right? Like if they are selling a home in Churchill cluster, they would make a big fuss about, oh, how great the school is. But if that home is next to, it's like in the, let's say, Kennedy cluster, they would be silent about that, you know? And I don't doubt maybe that exists to some extent, but, you know, I think every bill needs to be evaluated according to the pros and cons. Like I, as a homeowner, or potential homeowner, I want to know which school is tied to it. If you prohibit me from knowing about it, it's a huge, you know, inconvenience for home buyers. And say, why do I have to look it up online every time? Can you just write it down for me which school it goes to now? But you can put in fine print that it may change down the road because of, you know, overcrowding and all that, right? So every bill we have to put in a lot of thought, think about the what ifs, and you know, just ask each other a lot of questions to make sure, you know, everybody's opinion is considered, right?
Did that bill move through the committee?
So a lot of students came and testified. Most students testified in support of diversity because right now the school districts in Montgomery County is very segregated. It's more segregated than probably most people would consider to be acceptable. You know, that's the reality. Because if everybody goes to their neighborhood schools, it essentially will create a lot of segregation, right? Because the more expensive houses tend to cluster around certain schools. So if you don't shuffle student population around a little bit, you will create some level of segregation just by default of where the schools tend to be clustered, you know. So I understand the intention of what BOE is trying to do. I just think the process has a lot of questions, holes.
Yeah, so this ties into the next question I had in mind. So you talk a lot about how to like improve the transparency. So I was just wondering about like what specific methods you would carry out to just allow the public opinion to have more interaction between you and the people.
Yeah, so there is no silver bullet because in democracy, you can endlessly solicit public opinion without making a decision, and that's not helpful. At some point, you have to make a decision. As you know, some people will not be happy with whatever outcome you have, right? But it's a compromising process. What I propose is to have for each school district to have a community advisory committee that is made of people who are, like, Ms. Julie Young, who is connected and who is really deeply involved and is a community expert on public education issues, right? And the trusted leader in our community, people like her, should serve on that advisory committee to make sure there's no cultural or geographic blind spots, right? So she was saying, hey, wait a minute, you didn't reach out to the Asian American community groups or parents groups, right? Have we considered their opinion? Because there was one recommendation being pushed by the superintendent, and there was another being pushed by the Clarksburg community. And the Clarksburg community's opinion, recommendation was not voted on, okay? And only the superintendent's recommendation was voted on, right? So that was what made some community members uncomfortable and said, we told you what we wanted, and how come you did not even vote on that, okay? So what I propose is to create that buffer, that group that would cover the cultural blind spots and say, hey, have we considered, out of the 14 options, maybe we will narrow it down to at least 2 or 3 options instead of voting up and down on only one option, which also happens to be the superintendent's option, right? So that's what I mean by more transparency, right? I know I got into the weeds. Maybe that's more than you need to know, but but I study these things. I have to. I wake up thinking in the middle of the night how to defend my bill. Right?
Yeah, hi, Delegate Qi. So following up with the information you provided on boundary study, how you mentioned how certain students testified in front of you, that raises me an important question. Just wondering, out of curiosity, how do students like us take part in certain bills that the House and Senate maybe considering to pass, and how do we give our input or suggestions or get involved with this type of stuff? Yeah,
so usually the bill sponsors who are legislators would do some outreach depending on the relevancy of the bill, right? So if I, let's say, introduce a bill about enhancing STEM education, I may reach out to students like you, right, currently in school, right? Currently, I am introducing a bill for special needs students, like deaf and hard of hearing, for educational interpreters. So my office has reached out to students who have something to say about, that, or parents who are struggling with kids who are deaf and hard of hearing, or even educators who are in the position to rely on educational interpreters and all that. So we try to reach out to the relevant parties who will have personal stories to tell or expertise to lend about certain areas. But just for your general information purposes, and if you want to monitor what I'm working on, what any of your representatives, because I don't represent all of you, some of you live in Montgomery County, but you might be represented by other delegates, you can just go to their website, periodically check and see what kind of bills they are sponsoring or co-sponsoring that might interest you. If you don't have time to take off from your school to come, just write us, a short email and say, I support your bill, or I oppose your idea. I think it's a terrible idea, and here's why. This is democracy. Even though you're not 18, you cannot vote, but you are constituent. We serve all people, not just people who voted for us, right? We serve people who can't vote for us, like kids,
An additional plug to that, they just redid the General Assembly website, and one of the things that you can always do there is you can put in your address and find out who represents you, and with just typing in your address and one button, you can email all 4 of them at once about what a bill is. And the other thing you can do is you can search by subject matter. And so if the example I always use is the environment. If you're interested in bills to help the Chesapeake Bay with deforesting, with clean water, you can search by any subject matter. You can search criminal justice laws, you can search educational laws, and you can just see what we're talking about. And out of the 3,000 bills, how many are devoted to this certain subject matter that you're interested in. And it might be sponsored by someone from a part of the state that you've never been to and you won't go to for a long time, but that doesn't mean that. That's the whole point of them coming here as well, is that we are one state, and if you're interested and they're interested, maybe it's something that the whole state needs. And you can email them as well. You can email Delegate Qi and ask her to support another one of her colleagues' bills. And it's supposed to be user-friendly. The website is very much for me to do my job, but it's also very much for you as citizens to participate.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to clarify that as a state government, we generally do not get involved in another level of government's legislative affairs. We don't tell them how to do their job, just like we don't like them telling us how to do our job, right? Mm-hmm. So my congressman cannot tell me how to do my job, because I only have one boss, which is people who voted for me, my constituents, right? Mm-hmm. The people I represent are my boss. I don't report to anyone, you know. Only the voters can vote me out. No one else can retire me from my job, right? So I don't have to feel like, oh, I have to listen to this person who has more power than me. My power is vested in me by the people who voted me in. Okay, so to that extent, we try not to interfere with Board of Education's ability to do their job. Okay, I'm not trying to introduce. I just want to clarify. When you say you want to advocate and testify, you should. If school issues are very important to you, Board of Education is where you need to go to exercise your right more than the state government. Okay, we give you the funding, we give you money, which is also important. Part of the money, at least, and the county gives you part of the money too. You know.
I have one more question.
Any questions? Yeah.
So, as an immigrants' rights advocate, how would you best promote the Asian American community to get more involved in political activities?
Well, that's another great question, and I promise I'll keep it short. One is, I think my election itself has become a transformative experience for the Asian American community, and I'm thrilled to see the maturity and the growth of our community from the experience of getting involved in my campaign, either directly or indirectly. Because of my campaign, we pushed out so much bilingual information about how the election system works, whether it's fair or unfair. We just tell people how to play the game, basically. You either play the game or you become lunch, right? This is democracy, which favors those who participate, you know? Nothing is absolutely fair. You just have to know where you are in relationship to the system, right? The system is not going to wait for you to make sure your community has a representation unless you self-select to participate, right? So I think our community learned a lot about the primary election system, about Maryland's politics, and how the different levels of government functions and all of that. I think the second point I want to make is, over the years, even before deciding to run for office, I had spent over 10 plus years dragging people along to attend political activities, fundraisers, and meet and greets and rallies, and personally donated to a lot of local elected leaders' campaigns and all of that. Because once you get involved, you learn the issues and you know the people, right? And then people know you, they start reaching out to you. They want you to go to this and that. And over time, I felt like I was sucked into the process, whether I liked it or not. But I actually enjoyed it. I learned a lot by just meeting people, learning about issues. And I started, you know, grabbing people from the community, not just Chinese, but the whole Asian American community. I wrote a column about community engagement, you know, in Asian Fortune for 4 years. And I basically, you know, encouraged a lot of people to serve on the boards, committees, and commissions, and I nominated a lot of people for those things as well, including some governor's awards or recognition and some appointments and all that. So I think all these efforts collectively not only prepared myself, but also brought along some people in the community. But, you know, I think my campaign was the watershed moment. It was like a leapfrog forward, you know.